Hey everybody, it's Miss Carrie, and we are going to go over the section on pickup notes here on page 12 of our Mel Bay Grade book. Pickup notes can be a little confusing, and a lot of times musicians will refer to this as starting on the upbeat or starting on the downbeat. Most musicians do not refer to this as pickup notes. Pickup notes is our actual technical terminology for it when we're discussing music theory. So basically our book says here literally, pickup notes are one or more notes at the beginning of a strain before the first measure are referred to as pickup notes. The rhythm for the pickup notes is taken from the last measure of the selection, and the beats are counted as such. So that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So we're going to break that down a little bit more for you guys to understand, okay? First and foremost, to fully comprehend pickup notes, you must understand time signature. Time signature is super important because that's going to tell us how many beats we have per measure. It'll tell you how to set your metronome properly, and it'll help you keep the general beat of the song. So you should always be aware of your time signature before you start playing a song, especially if you're playing with other people or you're doing harmonies, using a metronome, anything like that. It's like of the utmost importance, because if you're not following a proper beat, we're going to have absolutely no clue as to what you're playing. So always make sure, you're following your time signature and keeping a good rhythm, okay? So we're going to look at this song here, Red River Valley, on page 12 to discuss our pickup notes, okay? Now, what we're going to do first and foremost, we're going to look at our time signature. Now, here we're going to see the letter C. Now, if you remember back from our page 6, when we went over the rudiments of music, we learned that the C means common time. Common time is basically another way of saying 4/4 time. 4/4 time, if you happen to have forgotten, means that there should be 4 beats to every measure. So the top number will always tell us what we're counting to, aka how many beats per measure. The bottom number will tell us what type of note gets 1 beat. So in Mel Bay Grade 1, we only play over 4. You won't see anything other than over 4 until the end of book 2 for the Mel Bay series, okay? And when we do that, it's going to turn into an 8, which means our 8th note is worth 1 beat. That's a little bit complicated to talk about right now. We're just going to keep things simple and keep going with our 4/4. Okay, we've established that we're playing in a common time signature, which means that we're counting to 4, okay? So that means that every single measure should add up properly to 4 beats. So as you can see, this measure here, for example, we have a half note and 2 quarter notes, so that's 2 + 1 + 1 = 4. Next measure, 2 + 1 + 1, that equals 4. Same here, we have 1 dotted half note equals 3, 1 + 3 = 4. Now going back to our first measure, we're going to notice that our measure only contains 2 single quarter notes, okay? So 2 single quarter notes is going to mean 1 + 1, which we know is 2. Now we know from basic math that 2 is not equal to 4. So we know right away that because the measure does not add up properly to what it's supposed to add up to for our beats per measure, this will tell me right away that my song contains pickup notes. So pickup notes mean that I'm literally picking up the notes from the end of the last strain of the song. So going by my first measure, where I have 2 quarter notes, 1 + 1 = 2, 2 does not equal 4, I'm going to immediately look at the end of the song. When I look at the end of the song, the very last note is a half note, and we know that our half note is worth 2 beats, okay? So now if I take my half note, which was worth 2, and I take my single quarter note at the beginning here, which was worth 1 and 1, that tells me that I do have my 4 beats. Now the tricky part is, how do we know what to count to? We can't very well count to 4 if we don't have 4 notes. So here's the easiest way that I can explain pickup notes to you. We look at the end of the song, we see that we have a half note. We know that a half note is valued at 2, okay? Now we know that we have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So when you're using pickup notes, I want you to always think in counting numbers, okay? One of the common mistakes that I see a lot of is people don't think in counting numbers. They think in how many numbers are left over. So I'll show you the right and the wrong way to kind of pick this up, no pun intended. Actually, maybe it was, knowing me. So we have our half note. We have our 4/4 time signature, or our common time signature. So we know that we have to equal 4. So if I have to count to 4, okay, we're going to look at it like this. think of my index as 1, my middle is 2, my ring is 3, my pinky is 4. We have to count to 4, okay? So if I see my half note, I'm going to count 1, 2. Now, whatever's left over in counting numbers is how I know what count I apply to the top of the song. So if I've got to count to 4, and I've already counted 1 and 2, our counting numbers that are left over will be 3 and 4, okay? So if I counted 1, 2, the counting numbers left over are 3, 4. 3, 4 is how I will start counting the song. So when I count this, I will go 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So you see how I started on a 3, 4 counting, and I ended on a 1, 2, okay? So that's basically how you do your pickup notes. Remember what I said, always think in counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So whatever's left over of your counting numbers, that's what you apply to the top. Just to show you really quickly another example, this song is in a 3, 4 time signature, and this song contains pickup notes. I'm going to look at the first measure. I see a single quarter note. I know right away I have pickup notes. I'm going to look at the end of the song where I see a half note. And because this is in a 3, 4, we're counting to 3, not 4. So when I see my half note, remember, counting numbers, everybody, counting numbers. Okay, we got to count to 3, okay? So if I'm counting to 3 and I count 1, 2, my counting number that's left over, 3. That's how I start the song. I count from the number 3. So this one would go 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip down here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So you see how I did that? My count isn't even. It's a little bit off. And like I said, counting numbers, everybody. Think in counting numbers, not how many are left over. Always think in counting numbers. It's a little tricky, and to be honest with you guys, if I was the writer, if I was the author of this book, I would not be introducing pickup notes to you guys until further on down the line. But unfortunately, since Mel Bay is pretty much the best black and white version of guitar instruction books, and you guys know me, I like to go with stuff that doesn't have gimmicks to it, we had to deal with it, okay? So I hope you guys understand, and keep practicing.